I'm a sports fan. My favorite thing is to watch a team win a championship. Now, it's wonderful if it's my team. It's only ever happened one time. But I enjoy watching any celebration. The Stanley Cup Finals in hockey, watching each player take their turn, skating around the rink, holding up the trophy. The U.S. Open Championship in golf. The World Series, which is the only time I actually watch baseball. The NBA Finals, 2011, when the Dallas Mavericks won. It's a particularly good year. Can we just leave that picture up for just a little bit longer? Man, good memories right there. Super Bowl. It's been a while for the Cowboys. The Final Four, and then the World Cup, which I love watching a country rally around their soccer team, everybody cheering for one team, trying to see if we can win the World Cup. I love to watch teams celebrate. There's nothing quite like the thrill of victory. When you win the big game and accomplish a great victory, nothing else seems to matter. You're not tired anymore. Your money problems aren't important. Your back doesn't hurt anymore. You love everyone and everyone loves you. You're a winner enjoying life at the top. You don't need a message on how to celebrate. It comes naturally. You throw your arms in the air, you run around the room, you shout, you high five, you dance a little victory dance. You know what to do when you win. But what do you do when you don't win? What do you do when you suffer a horrible defeat? What do you do when you've lost it all? It's over. Your business is gone. Your kids, they've left home. They've left God. Your marriage is destroyed. You've lost everything in a financial disaster. Depression has won, and you can't go on. It seems everyone is against you. Your friends are gone. Your family, gone. Your dreams, gone. Your joy, gone. Your hope, gone. You had it once, but now you've lost it all. And in those moments, how do you respond? Where do you turn? What do you do? The story we look at today in 1 Samuel chapter 30. David suffered a bitter defeat. And looking at his reaction and God's response, we discover what to do when you've lost it all. Now, let me set it up for you. David was anointed the future king of Israel, but there was a problem. The current king, Saul, he didn't want to give up his throne. And to add to the tension, the people loved David. Saul grew jealous of David, and he decided to eliminate the threat to his throne. So David ran for his life. It was a dark time. David's destiny was to be king, but that destiny was looking farther and farther away. David ended up in a cave where he was joined by the distressed, discontented, and indebted 400 guys with big problems and bad attitudes. And because we can look ahead, we know these same guys one day become mighty men of God. But at this point, that was way in the future. David led this group of tough, dysfunctional guys and taught them to fight like a team. The team grew to about 600, and they eventually fled to the land of the Philistines. Now, David, who was supposed to be the king of Israel, was instead living in the land of his enemy. See, the enemy king gave David and his men a place called Ziklag, where they set up their homes. And David lost his vision and his passion. He was no longer thinking about being king. He was just trying to survive. But David and his men became kind of secret double agents. The Philistine king thought David was wiping out towns in Judah, but in actuality, David and his men were destroying Philistine territory. And even though David was not welcome in Israel, he was wiping out cities that were enemies of Israel. And every time they destroyed a town, David and his men collected all the stuff and they brought it back to Ziklag. And after a while, David and his men, they were doing pretty well. They had quite a bit of stuff. Their little city was doing good. And that's where we pick up the story. David and his men reached Ziklag on the third day. Now the Amalekites had raided the Negev in Ziklag. They had attacked Ziklag and burned it, and had taken captive the women and all who were in it, both young and old. They killed none of them, but carried them off as they went on their way. When David and his men came to Ziklag, they found it destroyed by fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. David and his men knew their families were safe and secure because Ziklag was a stronghold. No one in his right mind would attack Ziklag knowing David and his men lived there. But the Amalekites did. David and his men were on their way back from a mission when they saw smoke rising in the distance. And even from a long way away, they recognized what had happened because they had left a lot of cities looking just like that. Suddenly, their worst fears were realized. Everything was gone. Their wives, gone. Their families, gone. All their stuff, gone. They had been wiped out and destroyed. There was nothing left. It wasn't fair. David and his men were doing something for God, but without warning, it happened. Have you ever had something bad happen to you? And when it did, your first thought was, man, this is payback. I shouldn't have cheated on that spelling test in the first grade. I knew someday it'd come back to haunt me. It all comes back. You remember every single time you've messed up, every bad thing you've done. Someone says, did you know your tire is flat? And immediately you think, I should have went to church last week. Your kid finally sleeps all night in her own bed 3 nights in a row, only to come to your room at 2 a.m. crying on the 4th night, and you wonder, what did I do wrong today? I'm not speaking from experience there. You get up in the morning, and you're the perfect picture of a loving husband and father. Say, I love you to the wife and kids. You walk out the door. 20 minutes later, the phone rings. Your wife asks you to come back. You say, what's wrong? I wrecked the car on the mailbox. On the way home, you're thinking, did I tithe? Did I give what I was supposed to? Is this payback? What did I do? And I think it's okay to check our hearts in those moments. But sometimes, even when you're doing the will of God and living right, bad things happen. It's part of living. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. This sound must have been amazing and terrifying. And this was not a couple of guys weeping quietly over in the corner. This was hundreds of the biggest, baddest dudes on the planet. Think SEAL teams, Army Rangers, Green Berets, giving full voice to their misery. These great, strong, mighty warriors wept until they had no more power to weep. And then suddenly, when there were no tears left to cry, the men stopped. And they looked at David with hate and anger. David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. People say and do mean things when they're bitter in spirit. And in this case, 600 big, mean guys were fired up mad at David. They were ready to throw rocks at him until he died a bloody, agonizing death. David, who led them against the enemy, now he was the enemy. They're saying, it's your fault, David. None of this would have happened if you just hadn't made us go on that trip. We've lost everything, and it's all because of you. David didn't stand up and say, now guys, let's discuss this like reasonable men. David was worried. In fact, he was greatly distressed. That's the Bible way of saying David was scared to death. David was running from an evil king, and now a group of mean men were plotting to kill him. And remember, David lost his entire family, all of his stuff, in the city that he had built. David was big time discouraged. He needed some encouragement in a hurry. This exiled from his country, supposed to be king, about to lose it all leader, had a serious case of the why me's. Maybe you identify with David. We're all human. We've all been there. There have been times I want to give up and find something easier. My wife, for whatever reason, her idea of a picture-perfect Christmas is a fire in the fireplace. It's not Christmas until there's a fire going in the fireplace. Now, we have a gas fireplace. Doesn't feel very real, but it had been broken. I didn't really like the thing anyways, but this year we decided we'd have a technician come out and look at it and get it fixed. So he came, he cleaned it, did all the tuning, made sure the levels were right, got it working. We were good to go. So I come home. One day I go flip the switch on, light the fireplace, trying to be a good husband for my wife. And it's on for like 3 or 4 minutes and then turns off. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I'm one of those that worries that gas is now leaking into my living room and the house is gonna explode suddenly. But I flip the switch off, flip it back on, the fireplace turns back on. 3 or 4 minutes later, turns out again. It's like, I just paid somebody to fix this thing. So we call the guy, he comes back out. He says, you got a part broken. I said, fix it. He said, I can't. Like, what do you mean? He showed me. Looked at the part. And it says on the part, do not replace this part. I'm like, who designed this stupid thing? I was like, so what, can we just, go against the rule, not tell them that we fixed the part? Can we do something like that? He's like, no, you got to buy an entirely new fireplace. That didn't appeal to me. I don't care that much about the fireplace. So instead, my wife, she decided to buy a brand new piece of furniture that had an electric fireplace built into it. Now, I don't know who created the plans for that fireplace/entertainment center. They did not finish the first grade. The drawings made no sense. The pieces were labeled incorrectly. I'd put 2 pieces together to just 10 minutes later have to take it apart and put it back together a different way because it didn't make sense in the instructions in the first place. And finally, after 4 hours of working on this contraption, I was putting in a screw and it slipped and stabbed my finger. And I laid down on the ground and I screamed as loud as I could scream in frustration. I was hurt, I was mad, and I was fed up with this thing. Evie and Maverick they were watching their father fail at something their father should have been capable of doing. And as I was roaring in fury and pain on the floor, Evie walks up to me and she says, Dad, do you feel like giving up? I said, I do. I want to take this thing out in the backyard and create a new fireplace. In response, she decided to sing me a song from one of her favorite TV series, Puppy Dog Pals. Now, I can't sing. and I understand I'm about to attempt to do this, but I want you to just imagine my 5-year-old daughter, Evie, in the middle of our living room with her father screaming in pain on the floor, singing this song. She sang as loudly as she could. When you feel like giving up, you gotta keep on trying. I didn't want to keep on trying. We laughed, and then Evie and Maverick helped me finish putting together the demented piece of furniture. And now whenever I or anyone in the family is feeling down, we sing that song just to cheer ourselves up. And it happens in other areas of life. Inevitably, when I feel like giving up, someone encourages me. They'll email me, text me, stop me in the hall and say, hey, we just want you to know I appreciate you. I had lunch this week with a group of widows. It was one of the most encouraging lunches I've ever been to. Women who have lost their husbands, some of them for years, some of them for months, sitting there with an infectious joy about them. It was so much fun to be around. Don't you all just love to be around people that encourage you? I do too. Everyone loves encouragers. Surrounded by encouragers, you know you can make it. Can you imagine what church would be like if everyone decided to be an outrageous encourager? Wouldn't it be fun to come to a place where everybody believed in you and everybody loved you and they told you that? You wouldn't be able to get through the halls. People would be hugging, crying, laughing, telling others how wonderful they are. You wouldn't be able to find a seat in a church like that. You wouldn't be able to find a parking space, but you wouldn't care because everyone was encouraging you. You'd never miss a service. You'd come if you didn't feel good just to be encouraged. You'd come in the rain. Wouldn't that be amazing? Everyone loves being encouraged. But what do you do if there's no one to encourage you? What if you look around and everybody sees the same thing you do? You don't have a chance. Then what do? How do you avoid a meltdown? And I want to show you a key. What to do when encouragement is nowhere to be found and it looks like there's no hope in sight. When that happens, do what David did. Because verse 6 said, but David found strength in the Lord his God. And I think the word used for strength, I think is better translated as encouraged. So you can read it this way. David encouraged himself in the Lord. David had 600 mean guys in front of him with rocks in their hands. And some of them were Benjamites. And from an early age, they were taught to throw rocks with great accuracy. With their left hand, they could hit a rabbit from 100 yards away. These guys were great rock throwers. David couldn't outrun them. He didn't have a chance. So instead of throwing a pity party, quitting, giving up, throwing in the towel, or taking off on a dead run, David modeled something for us. David clearly needed a word from God, but first, David made the decision to encourage himself. When there is no one around you to encourage you, you have to find ways to encourage yourself on your own, to get encouraged on your own. You have to encourage yourself. You might say, but Tyler, you don't understand how hard it is. You don't understand how bad I have it. I've lost so much. I'm all alone. Let me ask you, do you have 600 big, mean, smelly guys who have just returned from conquering a city only to find out they've lost their families, everything they have, lined up to kill you? If you don't, then David had it worse than you. Do what David did. Encourage yourself. Strengthen yourself in the Lord. How did David encourage himself? I believe David did what he often did in times of trouble. I think he started writing songs. I'm not sure which ones he wrote, but I've read several that fit the situation. And you can imagine David writing this song. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evil men advance against me to devour my flesh, when my enemies and my foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then will I be confident. For in the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his tabernacle and set me high upon a rock. Then my head will be exalted above the enemies who surround me. At his tabernacle will I sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. When you worship and encourage yourself, God will bring you out of the circumstances where the enemy has you trapped. There is a way out. There is a place of safety. God will put you in a place where your enemy won't be able to find you. David said, he put me high upon a rock. There's an important principle here. Worship isn't just what you do in church every weekend if you feel good. Worship is what you do when your house is on fire. Worship is what you do when everything has gone wrong. Worship is what you do when the doctor walks in and says cancer. Worship is what you do when your enemies look at you and say, I'm coming for you. Worship is what you do when your spouse leaves you. Worship is what you do when all hope is gone. Worship is what you do when the bank account says zero. Worship is what you do when you've lost it all. Don't wait for someone else to strengthen you. Don't wait for someone else to encourage you. Strengthen yourself. Encourage yourself in the Lord. How did David do it? David was a worshiper. Maybe he sang Psalm 61. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth, I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you have been my refuge, a strong tower against my foe. David, in one of the biggest crises of his life, started strengthening and encouraging himself in the Lord. You might say, but Pastor Tyler, I have a problem. I'm not a songwriter. You don't have to write a song. In the middle of your worst circumstances, just start singing. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. For 'tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. Sing the anchor songs that are deep in your heart and spirit. And maybe you connect most powerfully to God when you draw or paint or you're in nature. Maybe it's a certain place where you go in your home where you most sense his presence. Whatever you do to put yourself in his presence, to remind yourself of his goodness, do that. Feel the presence of God as you strengthen yourself in his presence.
'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus,
Isaiah said, "They that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength." Strengthen yourself. David encouraged himself, and suddenly David's soul was encouraged. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, "Bring me the ephod." An ephod was a priest's garment. It was something to put on when he needed to hear from God. And the men would hear that, "Bring me the ephod," and they would understand that David was saying, "I need a word from the Lord, and I'm ready." And after strengthening and encouraging himself with worship, David was ready for a word from God. Do you want a word from God for your life? If you want to get there, start with worship. Strengthen yourself, encourage yourself, get in his presence, and get your heart in the position to hear. 600 distraught guys were picking up rocks to stone him when David broke into song. The rest of the guys, they didn't have a clue what was going on because they didn't have a history. But David had been in bad spots before. When a bear came and tried to take one of his sheep, David killed the bear. When a lion tried to attack the flock, David killed the lion. When faced with Goliath, David looked at him and declared, "The same God that delivered me then will deliver the giant in my hands." And David went to the rock pile, picked up a few stones, walked out, and defeated Goliath. David had a history with God. David had seen God at work before, but this time, David didn't go to the rock pile. That wasn't going to do him any good. 600 guys had already been to that rock pile. This time, David didn't go to the rock pile. He went to the rock himself. His God, his Redeemer, his shield, his deliverer, his refuge, his fortress, his strength. David got alone with God and said, "God, I need a word from you." And David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I pursue this raiding party? Will I overtake them? Should I go after them? Will I catch them?" And the answer from God came quickly. "Pursue them," he answered. "You will certainly overtake them and succeed in the rescue." Now, I like the King James Version better here. God said, "Pursue, for you shall surely overtake them and without fail recover all." Now, that's what I call a victory. Recover all. God said to David, and he says to you, "You shall pursue, overtake, and recover all." God is saying, get them back for the kingdom. It may not be easy. There may be a fight, but you're going to get back everything you've lost. You will pursue, overtake, and recover all. So yeah, your kids, they're going to come back to Jesus. Your marriage can be restored. It's not over for you financially. You can receive your healing. You still have a future. Your relationship can be restored. God still has a good work he wants you to complete. You're going to get back everything the enemy has stolen from you and everything he has tried to destroy. You will pursue, overtake, and recover all. So get your eyes off the enemy. Encourage yourself, strengthen yourself, get ready for a word from the Lord. He's speaking to you the same thing he spoke to David. Pursue, overtake, recover all. So David moved out with a word from the Lord, strengthened by God. David and the 600 men with him came to the Bezer ravine, where some stayed behind, for 200 men were too exhausted to cross the ravine. But David and 400 men continued the pursuit. And then there's this odd spot in the story. They found an Egyptian in a field and brought him to David. They gave him water to drink and food to eat, part of a cake of pressed figs and 2 cakes of raisins. He ate and was revived, for he had not eaten any food or drunk any water for 3 days and 3 nights. David asked him, "To whom do you belong, and where do you come from?" He said, "I am an Egyptian, the slave of an Amalekite. My master abandoned me when I became ill 3 days ago. We raided the Negev of the Kerethites and the territory belonging to Judah and the Negev of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag." This man was with the people who took everything David loved and cherished. The Amalekites abandoned him in a field where they left him to die, but then purely by chance, along came David. Maybe it wasn't by chance. See, God put that Egyptian in David's path. He was alone and forgotten and needed rescuing. David who was in an incredible hurry and under incredible pressure to get back his stuff, stopped for one person in need. And at that point, David had no clue he had been with the Amalekites. David was just caring for someone who had been abandoned. And then David found out he was with the guys who burned their city and took their stuff. And David asked him, "Can you lead me down to this raiding party?" He answered, "Swear to me before God that you will not kill me or hand me over to my master, and I will take you down to them." He led David down there, and there they were, scattered over the countryside, eating, drinking, and reveling because of the great amount of plunder they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from Judah. It was a celebration. They were having a victory party with all the stuff they had taken from Ziklag. Only in this case, the victory party was about to get interrupted because the winners, the Amalekites, they were about to meet the losers. They were about to come face to face with David and his men. David fought them from dusk until the evening of the next day. None of them got away except 400 young men who rode off on camels and fled. David recovered everything the Amalekites had taken, including his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, young or old, boy or girl, plunder or anything else they had taken. David brought everything back. He brought it all back. Everything. David and his men got it all back. So what do you do when you've lost it all? What do you do when the roof caves in? When it seems like there's no hope and no future? Don't do what comes naturally. Don't give in to discouragement and doubt. Don't put your head in your hands and sit down on a rock and quit. Don't drop out of church. Don't get mad and throw rocks. Don't blame God. Don't do that. Instead, do like David. Encourage yourself and strengthen yourself in the Lord and worship. And when you do, then you can go out in His power and His strength, and you will pursue, overtake, and recover all. Because you can recover everything the enemy has stolen for you. The enemy has taken it from you. It seems like it's over, but don't give up. Instead, encourage yourself in the Lord. And it all starts with worship. You might say, "Pastor Tyler, I don't feel like worshiping." I understand. Do you think David felt like it? Think when all those guys were standing there with rocks ready to stone him, David thought to himself, "Man, this is a great time to sing." Of course not. But David knew, I need to get in God's presence. I need to be with Him. Strengthen yourself in the Lord. You see, the order is very important. David strengthened himself in the Lord. Then he got a word from God. And then God said, pursue, overtake, and recover all. See, if David had never put himself in the position to hear, he never would have got the message from God. And he never would have been able to know that he could go in God's strength to pursue, overtake, and recover all. Would you bow your heads with me? Maybe you're like David. David at the first part of the story. Maybe when you walked in here today, you came in with the thought or the mindset, it's over. There is no hope. There is no future. I'm done. I'm alone. It's all gone and I'm never getting it back. Maybe you think your kids will never walk through those church doors again. They're as far away from God as they've ever been. Maybe the doctor walked in this week and said your cancer is back. You thought it was gone. You thought you had victory, but now the enemy seems to have taken it back and you just don't know if you're going to make it this time. Maybe you opened up your bank account with a pile of bills on the table and you knew you didn't have enough money to pay for it. We get in situations where it seems like all hope is lost and we feel discouraged. We feel afraid. We feel like there is no future. There is no hope. There's no way we're going to make it. The enemy has won and we can't win. But don't do what comes naturally. Do what David did. Strengthen yourself. Encourage yourself in the Lord. So if today you feel like all hope is gone, there's no future, it's over, I want you to just raise your hand because I want to pray for you today. If you're watching online, there's a button for you to click. Because I just want to pray that the Lord would encourage you and that you would be strengthened, encouraged in Him. Lord, you see my friends today said they feel like David did at the start of the story. They feel like there is no hope, no future. They feel alone, abandoned, like the enemy has won, that the cancer has overtaken their body and they're not going to receive that healing, that their kids are away from God and they're never going to come back, that they're in financial distress and they're never going to be able to crawl out of the hole. But Lord, strengthen them today, encourage them in your presence. Because we understand the most important part of this entire battle that we're going to face, of everything that we're going to go through, was demonstrated and modeled by David. That before we can do anything, before we can prepare for that word from you, Lord, that we know we have to get in your presence. Because in your strength, in your power, in your encouragement is the only way we can make it through. So Lord, encourage those today. Show them the hope of the future. Show them the victory that will be had. Show them what you have planned for their lives, because in your name, it is not over. There can and will be a victory. They can recover all. So Lord, encourage them in your power and in your strength. It's in your name that we pray. Amen. Now listen to me. I know it may feel like it's over. But don't just focus on the first part of the story. Because remember what happened in the second half. Because David had 600 big, mean, smelly guys holding rocks in their hands, ready to throw them at him and stone him to death. But God said, it's not over. There is still a victory to be had. David, get up, because you can go. You can recover all. So today, we remember. We remember that the doctor says you have cancer. We remember that your kids currently aren't in this sanctuary. We remember that you're struggling financially. We remember that you're struggling in school. We remember that your marriage is struggling. We remember that relationships in your life are broken. We remember that you're struggling at work. We remember everything that's going on, all the bad stuff that's happening in our life, but we're preparing ourselves. We're strengthening ourselves in the Lord. So encourage yourself. Start with the worship. Because guess what? You better get ready. Because at some point, God's going to say, it's time. He's going to look at you like he looked at David. He's going to say, right now, pursue, overtake, and recover all of it. Every ounce. Get it all back. Get your victory. Because one day,